Part 4, Revealing Hidden Formats in Genesis. And these are the hidden formats, the first writers' formats. In these verses like this are a psalm when you see them 1, 2, 3 as it is. In case you don't know the truth there, you do now. No. Okay, I'm going to continue. Sorry for my voice. I don't know what I ate or what I've done, but my voice, I've tried this 3 or 4 times, and it's not working. Okay, I'm done explaining the word boat as being changed from ark, so I want to make sure that you now understand I'm not going to go over the word ark. It is a boat. He made a boat. We don't need a word that does not exist in the text. And then dove to raven. Now, I don't know much about a dove, especially down here when it says a female dove, her foot, whether they would land on land that is wet ground, okay? Because it says that she flew until the water had dried. Now, I had to add the word had, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. So if somebody knows any more about that, please put it down below, because a raven I do not believe was on the ark. So that wouldn't have been an animal that our Creator would have tried to save for them to use as food when they got off the boat. And then Noah didn't put out, he reached. It's got the word put out his hand. Well, he reached and brought her in the boat. So he put his arm out, and then she landed on his arm. And waited another 7 days and sent out, and the dove didn't came, but returned. I'm using specific words that actually have a good meaning for what they are, not that the dove came to him, but returned. And in the beak was a leaf, and he knew, oh, I don't know why they don't have that. They could leave. Maybe I need to do that. I had to add it, and then I had to add the word leave because it takes over. They knew that the water had abated from earth. Anyways, let me see that for a second. I just want to check to make sure. Yeah, it's got here that Noah, and the water had abated from earth. So I like my text better. And then he did not remove, but he opened the door to the boat, not the covering. There's a room above it that has a window in it that he's releasing the dove from. And then the land had dried. And land, like I said, means surface that you can see. And I've changed this from the title God to YV. I want to do that real quick here. Here is, okay. Here is the text, and in the Hebrew there is no J, no O, or W. So if you remove all the words that have these letters that never existed, we have 2, okay? So I'm not really trying to come up with something different, except for the fact that how do you pronounce these words? I I think people are putting in words that they're not sure, or letters that are sure, but the sound for the letter Y and the letter V is Yava. So it's more like Yavi. See how it's got Yavi? Well, I don't know exactly. I haven't studied the Hebrew text in quite a while. But that's the difference of how they, oops, wrong button. But the object here is I use the letters YV and I pronounce them as YV. So uh, I'm, if I took a guess, I would say it's Wava, Wava, Wavi, Wava, something like that. But you can look it up. I will use the English letters. And didn't bring the cages, but opened up the cages. This is saying he brought up all the animals, then let them go. But if the boat door is open up here, then it was more or less that the animals were living on the second level. Now, when I say this, the text above didn't say how many, or it said there was a lower level. Now, the text is going to reflect that it's only the animals that were permitted by our Creator to eat, such as an animal would be, at that time, would have been any animal that did not eat another animal, any bird that did not eat another animal. Everything has to eat the green. So the thing here is those were the animals that were taken in. And he opened up their cage. He most likely kept some of them separate. But the object is that he opened up the cages and then he let them out. So now you understand why I'm adding the word cage. And then this is a promise that he's making to Noah, that he's saying he promised himself. So, whoops, I should have had it too. Yeah, I meant that it should have stayed him, meaning to Moses. He told Moses. Okay. This text just not needed. A lot of it's doubled from what is above the text of what we know about what they could eat. And if it's not, it doesn't really matter because this is just a doubling of text. So you'll not eat anything with blood in it. Okay. But the object is I just kind of summed up what you can eat or not eat according to our Creator. An establishment promise is not a covenant; it's a promise with yours. And then He's going to create a rainbow in the heaven everywhere. Okay, not just in the heaven, and it'll be a sign, but everywhere on earth. And this is just, it's already been said above. Here are the main reasons why I'm not going over the text. You got to hang in there with me for a while because I tried to do every verse and why I got rid of them. And I was doing 25, 30 videos, and that's just not needed anymore. I've done those, and I've just stopped doing it because there's 24 books I got to go through here, 20 of them here in the Hebrew text. And here I don't have them becoming drunk. I am saying that this word probably is a false word being put in. But when he drank wine, you do, and it is hot, you do want to lay down in your tent. Now, each male had their own tent. His wife had her own tent. He had his own tent. His sons had their tents. Their wives had their own tents. But the object is I'm not going to have Noah become drunk. But it was just hot, and he uncovered himself in the tent. Same thing. He was just hot, so he uncovered himself, and he laid in the tent. No air conditioning at that time. And his son, and I had to add the son, and it's not Ham. This is the second time that the word Ham is in here, and it's Canaan, the father of Canaan. Okay, so here it's saying Ham is, but we know that Canaan's become Canaan's. I showed you the map and how Shem stayed above theirs, or in their land. Canaan's stayed in their land, and Japheth's stayed in their land. And then, so I'm using this word to mean his third son, okay, or this name. Took a blanket. Now, garment was defined before as a hide that was made into clothes. And here it has to be a blanket, okay, because a garment is not something that you would put on to where you would walk backwards. Okay, I got rid of, they put it on their shoulder, but the object is a blanket, and they walked backwards, and then they knew that he had been covered, they covered his nakedness. Should I put his maleness here? That's because you're not supposed to see each other's nakedness. So I'm going to leave it as nakedness. I could have put maleness here. Now, when he woke up, he didn't know what had happened. He had to heard what happened. His youngest son had done to him. The word "know," he would not know. If he got hot and he left himself uncovered, fine and dandy. But if they covered him, why'd they cover him? He had to hear why, because he's going to curse Canaans and be the servants to their brothers. And he blessed these two. So how do you know the story unless they had heard from them? So this needs to be yellow, and I've added that yellow, and now you understand why I've done that. Now here I'm adding this verse here, to have righteous descendants. If you read the curse, it's just the curse that they'll be servants to his brother. And then here it's about enlarging one of the sons, but not both of them, and dwell in the tents of Shem. That's not really true, because you did not have each other's living in different sectors. You have to understand that their descendants, the males, were all living in the one land. I've got to find it here. Here is that picture of the lands, how they are divided up. Okay, so when they're saying they're going to live in the others, that just wasn't true. We get a lot of these definitions of where their land is at. is pretty much given in the text. Now, the one that I can say is this one here. I should have maybe put it along this ridge line as the dividing line. Okay. But right now, that's what the map I had made. But the more I'm over the years, it just seems that I could have followed that ridge line. I'm looking for land structure to divide the lands, okay? Or make it visible for everybody to know what's what. Along the coast, and they separated their lands according to their birth. See, here's what I'm just talking about right here. And along the coast, and they separated their land according to their birth. So it can't be they dwell in the tents of Shem, okay? And let Canaan be a servant. No, that's not true. So I'm adding the text here to have righteous descendants, okay? And I just showed you this to show you the map as well. And I need to check something here. Okay. These lands that I'm talking about in here, they didn't exist at this time. None of these existed at this time. They become what it seems the text will tell us is that when a family member within the group became very large, then they might have named themselves, such as the Palestinians. Okay, so the thing here is the descendants, all Noah's descendants are here in these three lands. Okay, even up until um, um, Joseph is sent to Egypt. So the thing here is every name or every relation or whatever will be people that belong to Noah. They're all descendants from the three sons, and those are the three areas. Now, it's hard to say that they're kings, and I'll get into that as well, because to be a king, you got to be over a certain amount of land, okay? And you got to be or in full control of that land. Example, I know that if I said the king of Jericho, well, Jericho is a city, and Jericho is down towards, as down here where it's pretty much desert down in the ravine where Jordan River's at. So you can't really call him the king of Jordan, okay? And a lot of times there isn't a lot of land either, because let me show you here. This is desert here, okay? A lot of it is desert. So the only thing is so when it says that there's this king here and there's this king here, they're rulers over this area or the leader over this area, not really so much as kings. I know I left that alone in our Creator's everlasting promises right now, but that will change because I'm now I feel better at editing more text than what I did when I first did our Creator's everlasting format or hidden formats. Or his everlasting promises is the way I name the text now. And everyone else had the same language. Okay. Now these according to their families and according to their language. And began to become tribes. Okay. Yeah, I better explain this because here's a verse here and then nothing. But what I did do is when I got this and I said, there's no format. Where's the third one? And when I went looking for it, I found it. It's way up here. and they began to be tribes according to their families and according to their languages. Now this is well, their language would have been slang, I guess, but they're all speaking Hebrew. Okay, that's the best way I can say that. But everyone else on earth, they had the same language and their same words. Okay, so although I did get rid of the word S, so it is Hebrews. Okay, so they spoke Hebrew, and everybody else was speaking the same language. And it came about when they traveled together, they found the pyramid in the land of Shinar. Now, this is establishing the land Egypt, but I didn't change the word Shinar to Egypt. This would have been before the flood, they would have known about this place. Okay, and that's what it was called before the flood, supposedly. But the object is then they settled there and then said to one another, let us make bricks and use tar. Well, I've got the word mortar here. Oh, the word mortar is here, so it's not used as tar together with mortar. So I didn't need this, but it's pretty much right here. And they built for themselves a city and a pyramid, not a tower, a pyramid. As you know, the other pyramids are not as well built as the first one. Okay. But they were to make a mark for their name, just as the pyramid was before. And as soon as they recognized it, they knew where they were at after the flood. So everything had been wiped out, but they couldn't, our Creator didn't wash away the pyramid. So the thing here is that's the explanation of how Egypt is growing here and how they ended up building their pyramid, not a tower, but a pyramid. And they were doing like the older people. And the only reason why I had to do is older people is because that was built before the flood. So I have to use the word older here. And then he was saying there again, they do this by their will. This purpose is actually a will. So maybe people would say I've changed that, but I don't think I changed it that far from the word. I'm just checking. I got to scroll through this here a little bit, see if I can. 11:6. 2. Well, they're using it as plots, plotted, purposed, or schemed. But it was actually their will that they'd done this to make a mark for their name, as it's said above. So to keep with that, again, it was their will that they'd done this. And then he's going to come down, he's going to confuse them. So they didn't understand each other and it confused their language. That's why we had the introduction up here of their languages. And now all the different languages started to happen around this area. Okay. You can't say that this text is speaking to what people are doing in China or India, because I know they existed at this time. They were not completely wiped out. So understand each other's speech. And from there over the land. See, it said the whole earth, but that's not true. Those little bunch of people that had gathered to do this, there would have been many of them, but the object is they didn't go all over the world. I can see there was many different languages. Example, today, if we trust people living on their land over and over and over and over, some people will say, well, they're Arabs today. Well, that's not true, because when you look at them, their facial features are so different than each other that it would mean that he would have separated them. And that's why that group of people that were there were of many races. So, and then they were separated by their race or by their language. So, um, and these ages here don't matter. Now you can see I've got numbers in here. And the thing here is just like the word 30 years, the Hebrew didn't have those numbers. They would use two words for the word 30, and it would be 3 10. If you were saying you were 15 years old, you'd say 10 and 5 years. Okay? So that's how they actually wrote it. And you can see that in the Hebrew text when you study that they'll have a lot of times two words. But they just rounded them up and said, this is what it is today. So I'm just going backwards to make the text more original when you see me do that. So just like 70 years is 2 10s, but I can't trust that text. And then I switch these words around. Okay, and then a lot. And they left out of Shem's. Now, see, when it says they left, it doesn't really tell you where. But when they had to enter into Canaan, I needed to tell you where they were from, okay? Because I got them coming from someplace 700 miles away, and that's just not true. But the object is, it was Shem's land where they come from, so I'm adding that text so you know they just traveled, because they're going back and forth, and when they send a 15-year-old and he's only going 10 miles at the most, well, if you're going into family known area, you wouldn't think of crime as we do today. So they wouldn't have been mistreated. They would have just trusted us, send the kid off to 10 miles away, knowing that their relatives are up that way. Then his father died, Abraham's father. And then our Creator commands them, and this is part of the prophecy of his promise. And this is, he's going to say it here, but it's not where I can say that I can use the word he prophesied to Abraham, go, walk your country, your forefathers, in the land you see, I'll make it for your descendants. He's telling him what's going to happen, but he doesn't say it's a promise. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I should change this word to he prophesied to Abram, go. That might get changed. There's so many things that when I'm doing this, that when I'm taking a second and third look at them, that's how I make up my mind that a word should be changed. Because this is a prophecy that's going to be talked about later. And all the families, I've already discussed it. When it says all the families, it means races, all the races be blessed. Now, when I point to Abraham as, let me get back to the text here. And the text as it is, he's talking to Abraham that he's going to make kings come from him, shall come forth from you. And I will establish my covenant between him and his descendants. Then here in 18:18, then all nations of the earth will be blessed. Okay. I haven't gotten that far, but the text is revealing that I could have added to this. But why I did these is because it has the word kings, all nations, and then from your seed, all nations of the earth shall be blessed. here is our Creator's putting the descendants and these kings as his seed. And this is why when you read the text in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, when they're using Abraham as our forefather, because this is our Creator's promise to him through his son's seed, and then the promised, I think, then occurs with Jacob, who becomes Israel, and then to Daniel, or not to Daniel, but to David. And then David is announced that through his son's seed, will become a king forever in heaven. And that promise right there is the reason why we go, or we will enter into heaven. So the text here, on earth will be blessed by me. I'm trying to see how much I really. Well, I guess it's that when it says he'll make their name, and this is this actually is the prophecy of him establishing a nation, his nation called Israel, when he leads them out of Egypt. So there's a lot to be said in these words here, but it does mean that from the promises that when he makes his nation, that their king shall come from his nation. So that's kind of like the promise that he's going to tell Israel again when he goes down to Egypt and visits, or to live with Joseph. They took all their possessions and they went to Shem's. Now, why did I add this text here? Well, that's because if he's going to walk all the land, he has to start somewhere. And the land that Abraham, I think at this time, is right here. Okay. This is Lake Galilee. Now, this here, he had to go up here and then come back down here to travel all the land. Because if not, if you go by the text, other than that, then you go south. And so I'm making sure that the text says that he has to go up into Shem's. And then he went to the land of Canaans, and he walked their land, and then he passed through their land into the land of Japheth's, for the simple fact that he did walk through here, so we have to have Japheth's land as well. So the thing here is as far as the river. Now, you're seeing I have to add after they pass through to the land of Japheth, or Japheth's. I should have put S. And this is going to be a reminder for me. Sorry, I gotta. Put that as a reminder to make sure that that goes forward into the text. Now here, it's as far as the river. Now, I think I looked for this before and I didn't find a good picture of this. Let me do this. Okay, here we go. This is they're calling it a brook of Egypt, but at the time it was a river. And so this little dividing line here is what I'm calling where he walked down to. Okay, so Abraham went down through in here. Okay. Now remember, Amaleks lived here when they're coming back. Amaleks are going to be descendants from Japheth's descendants. But like I said, when a male became the leader of a great big area, they named it after him. Let me see if I can get to Joseph's trip here. And here's what I have here. Okay, so he went up to here, and then he came back down to here, and then down into here. Like I said, it was the Amaleks later, but this is the river Egypt. So this is what I'm saying is as far as the river, okay? Because there is no other river when you go down that way, okay? So it has to be as far as the river. At this time, it might not have been called Egypt, but so I'm not going to put in the name Egypt. You're going to have to listen to me when I go through all the text and really explain every word and what it means and why each word is definitely condensed knowledge in each word. Then why he appeared. I'm just thinking here. I didn't think it needed. I didn't add that word. It shows up in the text here. As you can see, I've clicked on it. That's verse 7, that 12. It's actually in the Strong's Concordance. So I had that wrong. And that, these buttons are so close to each other. And when I'm doing them, I just erred there. And he built a marker, not an altar, a marker. These altars that the Bible's got being put in is just not correct. Okay, they're markers at this time. This is what happened here, and he made a marker, not there, but where. Let me see if that's okay. The word there is here, and you can see it's used 614 times, a couple more, but the word where is used as well. So it's not really that far of a stretch for me to say where why he appeared to Abraham. He wouldn't build an altar there. Now it says that by this city cannot be here until it is assigned as a city of refuge when they conquer the promised land. Okay, so a lot of these cities that are going to be named later began by being a command from our Creator as the city of refuge. And Abram, can you continue towards Nebuchadnezzar? Okay, now I showed you this, and that is actually down here. So did Abraham walk down here and come down through here and walk? The text is going to reflect that's how he walked down here. So the thing here is that's what the text you're seeing here. That I don't need this, but he had to walk to Egypt because we're going to be talking about why he went there. He went into Egypt. So towards Egypt, the word towards, not towards Nebja or whatever. Had to add the word brother, but not to kill me. Had to add that. And he didn't came into, he went into. And let me see here's real quick. Okay, and now I'm going to go into the king's going to take Sarai, and then he is going to give Abram some wealth as sheep and donkeys. And he took her into the palace, and there was a deadly illnesses. They aren't plagues, they're illnesses, and they're deathly ill. And the reason why is because he only could have known that is because of why we told him. So I had to add this text into the text here. Okay. And then he's going to kick him out, go, leave. These words aren't that hard. Egypt into them. And now he's going back, so the words there are needed. And let's see, and Lot is still with them. Okay, it's 41 minutes. I think I'm going to call it a quit here and start here at 35. And why I had to put Lot was with them when they went into the journey, even though it doesn't say it that above. It's very important because when he comes out, now Lot also had herds or flocks. So the thing here is I needed him to be with him when he left because how else did they meet up later? It's just the story flows better and more easy to understand. And they come back to the marker that he had set up. All right.